Okay, so as we proceed forward with your first exam over Chapter 4, as we've been talking about this entire time, deals with cells. And one of the things we talked about is you probably have been discussing what cells are for probably the better part of maybe 4 or 5 different times. Okay, but what we want to discuss is what do all cells have in common. So one of the aspects that we've talked about, there are 3 of them. So you may want to be able to describe what characteristic, reason I'm saying this is I'm writing maybe a glare that might be tough for you to be able to read this. So what characteristic or characteristics do all cells have in common? Okay? And the reason we say that is it's not entirely all the cells. If you want to be specific, it's the erythrocytes that would lack a nucleus. So, but we're gonna just go with this type of content. The first characteristic we would say is that all cells have a nucleus. Okay, or just say cells have a nucleus. Probably near the center of the cell. Oh, 2 points. Yes. Yep, no problem. Okay, so as we proceed forward then, again, the nucleus is probably somewhere located near the center of the cell. So that's where it is. Next thing we want to talk about is what does the nucleus do? Okay, so in this case, one of the aspects we talk about can the DNA, which is not only just important for this, but future references will make as far as what protein synthesis is. So inside this nucleus that's located near the center contains the DNA, and what that does is it will direct cellular activities. For instance, again, some cells like neurons will conduct nerve impulses, would not have the same function of pancreatic cells. They would create substances like insulin and glucagon. Okay, so the information encoded in that DNA in the nucleus is going to be important for directing that cell type of activity. Okay, next is cells have a cytoplasm. Okay, so the reason that's important is that's where you will find these important organelles floating around in the cell. Cells have a cytoplasm, which, for our practical purposes of knowing, which contains the mitochondria, we can just say ER for endoplasmic reticulum. We don't need to be specific about whether it's rough or smooth. We just want to know that's the endoplasmic reticulum. And finally, and the Golgi apparatus. Okay? And what we talked about in class is that the Golgi apparatus is what will collect and modify the proteins that are being made. Okay? So again, you have a nucleus, it contains the DNA that will direct the cellular's activities. Then you have the cytoplasm, which contains a lot of the important organelles. There are more than just these 3, but these are what we're really concerned about as far as what the functions of these cells are. Okay? Then finally, all cells have a plasma membrane. Okay? Okay? And what that means, okay, is one of the ways you can look at it. It's the gatekeeper, so it will allow certain materials in and keep certain other materials out, okay? And it performs this function in a variety of ways, okay? What that means is some substances move through because of diffusion, like blood gases, really tiny materials. And then the other is facilitated diffusion, okay? Facilitated diffusion. And what that means is those are substances that are too large to move through, like sugars and proteins. We'll just say like sugars. Okay? So they have to have an actual protein or plasma membrane and allow that to move through. So those are the three main characteristics that you really want to know that all cells have in common. The main thing is to say what the nucleus is and what it does. It contains that DNA, that it has cytoplasm, and it contains those assorted organelles, the mitochondria, the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, then finally the Golgi apparatus. Okay? Then finally, all cells have a plasma membrane, and what that does is it will allow certain materials in while keeping others out. And in this case, diffusion will allow blood gases in and out, and facilitated diffusion, which will allow substances like that of sugars and proteins to move in, because they're just too large to move across with simple diffusion. Now, you don't need to be mentioning the concentration gradient at this time. That was more so application for Chapter 5, which will be placed on the exam with Chapter 6, which deals with photosynthesis, and will combine a little bit of cellular respiration, but that will not take place this yet. This exam up, we will start talking about photosynthesis, but we will not get into the cellular respiration until a later time. And then the last thing, what might be a good idea to know is, well, what's the cell theory? Okay, well, cell theory is that all cells come from pre-existing cells, okay, and that cells are the basic unit of structure and function, and then finally, cells the basic unit of life. Okay, so that is what we want you to know for all cells have in common. They are the nucleus, cytoplasm, and nuclear or cell membrane. Okay, so exam is tomorrow on Wednesday, and will be just some general questions and your vocab from Chapter 4. And again, we will move on to Chapter 6 on Thursday. All right, we will catch up to you next time.